What's up, guys? You know what night it is? Wednesday night, off-centered, with Dustin, the artist formerly known as the Personal Finance Dad, currently
Sure.
known as the Sports Car Dad, which is seriously the best name transition you could have made. And I don't know why it took you so long to make it, because I don't know what you were hesitating about, because it's such a good transition.
It has worked out pretty smoothly. Yeah, I have to admit. Maybe I was just afraid to change a little bit. I don't know.
You can't, change is the only constant. I think Buddha said that. So I'm glad you embraced it, and it was changed for the better, and you didn't lose thousands of subscribers because now your name actually reflected the content you were creating. You know what I mean? You're like, but what if I call it Sports Car Dad and people leave because they are thinking I'm a father that talks about sports cards?
I'm not switching from Iguana Dad. I'll always be Iguana Dad.
Yeah, seriously. Anyway, we have a great show. We're going to have Stephanie, aka Mama Breaks, on. She's the second female we've had on. She is very insightful. She's a great collector, a breaker. I know. Well, for us, it's a big deal, but she's also on part of a mission to get more girls, more females into the hobby, which at least 90% of us guys, hopefully more, are on board with, rather than just keeping it to ourselves, because I think there's a lot of room for growth in this hobby. I know you believe the same thing. So it's going to be a great hour, and then we have football kicking off, so we could talk a little bit about that. And if you have a fantasy league that you haven't done yet, we might be able to give Stephanie some pointers, or some of you guys in the chat might have some input for who she should draft, because she'll be drafting someone right after this, or doing her draft right after this live stream. So
you know what? Speaking of that, Andy invited me to do like the Fantasy Football Quest draft, content creator draft. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll jump right into it. And then I completely forgot about it. And then last night I saw something. I was like, see who everybody drafted. And I'm like, damn it. I totally missed that.
It sounds like you in promoting our newsletter.
Anything related to Brad and Andy, I just dropped the ball.
I'm actually surprised that you still tune in every Wednesday. I'm like, hey, I wonder if Dustin's just not going to show up tonight. So good to hear you're here.
My doppelganger.
Yeah, that's it. Troy, great to see you as usual. I was actually in Denver at the airport the other day. I like Denver's airport, got to say. I like Colorado overall. So I'm a Broncos fan, but only behind the Bucks. Andrew, good luck with that. Ryan, great to see you as well. Tom Brady's wife and Sly Stallone's wife are now on Hinge. Okay, I got to get back on since I got off for the last week. Brian Sherlin, great to see you as well. Yeah, it's been boiling hot here for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So looking forward to Saturday when the weather goes back to the
it's funny because Brian is like Saints 5-12. The thing that makes me really nervous is like Peter King at Sports Illustrated's picked the Saints to be the #1 seed. I thought like, oh, I'm a Saints fan, so I'm a homer. I'm going to say like, hey, they're going to surprise everybody. It's not a good sign when the national news are doing the same thing. That's not what we want. We want to fly under the radar. I don't want people saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
To be fair, though, I agree. I'm always like, don't put pressure, don't put the hype on. Make them fly under the radar, and then it's easier to overachieve because they have that chip on their shoulder. However, when the Bucks won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, there was a lot of hype around the Bucks, and they were actually able to do it. So definitely excited about football talk.
Tom Brady, though, I feel like he's the exception to the rule on that. He can handle the pressure. I saw him on what was he on? It was some interview where he was talking about, and the guy used to be in the Cards, right? I saw an interview where he was talking. It was like listening to Yoda talk about handling pressure. He's just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure-packed situations, and you just have to learn how to kind of deal with that. And it's like, I can't think of much. There's not too many more pressure-packed situations than being in front of 100,000 people and then all the millions on TV and having to make like the perfect throw or shot or whatever, like what all these pro athletes have to do. So it's like, it's insane.
The best position, punter. Worst position, kicker. Kicker, points are on the line, games are on the line. Punter, the worst case is you have a bad punt and it goes 9 yards and you're like, oh, we don't have good field position. But most of
the time people don't remember that, even though like some people that really know, they'll be like, oh man, remember the punter shanked it 9 yards and then they went down for the winning score. But 30 years from now, no one remembers that. They don't remember the shank punt.
And honestly, it's like that's not the reason why the game would be won or lost, because the defense would still have to give up the touchdown or the field goal. It'll never be on the punter that a game is lost. Like I've never seen that. It's always just.
I don't know if you've heard this, but like Donovan McNabb, when he was in the NFC title game, he was in the Super Bowl, maybe against Brady and the Patriots, but he got all this flack because he threw up in the huddle, like on the last drive or the last couple of drives. I'm thinking like, I would have been throwing up in every huddle, like in the Super Bowl. Like the fact that he gets so much crap for like, oh man, he's not, he like, what kind of a QB throws up in the huddle? I mean, I'm surprised more of them don't, frankly, like in those situations.
There was a quarterback. We'll jump off this topic shortly, but there was a quarterback for the Bucks, Bruce Gradkowski, he lasted, I think, half a season, maybe a season.
I remember him.
Yeah. And I think before his first start, he had to run to the bathroom and throw up before his first NFL start. But I mean, seriously, that means you care. Like, I understand, like, this is your dream come true, and this is the moment of truth. So this is like talking in front of 10,000 people, like up for a TED Talk, and your dream was to have a TED Talk, something like that. So anyway, Excited to talk about football. I will say, there was Troy mentioned a blurry background. Great to see you, Troy. Great to see a lot of you guys. We'll say more. We'll say hi in a second. I'll show you the boxing glove I have that I got there we go. If you can see it right there, I got the boxing glove in a case. And that's the boxing glove I got, the Mike Tyson glove I got at the Burbank show last week. So now that you see that, I will make it blurry again so you don't see how embarrassing the rest of my background is.
Wait, I can see trash cans behind you. Where are you, Brad?
No, you can't. No. It's beautiful. It's palm trees and the beach. I'm here in California. Everything's
You're
beautiful.
actually not in Los Angeles at all.
I'm in Detroit. I'm in AC. I'm in Atlantic City, guys. Can't you tell? I have trash. I have sirens. Anyway, what was your Labor Day like before we bring Stephanie on and before she leaves?
Right. Yeah, we're probably running out of time, but we just did our local community pool is awesome. It's got like a giant slide, like water park type slide. It's huge, and they allow alcohol at the pool. So it's my wife and I go down. We invite friends. It's like adults have a good time, kids can play, all good. So we did a lot of that, frankly, and then just like house stuff and whatever. Nothing too crazy. How about you?
I went to Montana for a friend's wedding, and he was actually, nice. So his name's Kerry.
Like cowboy hats on? What was that about? Did you guys sync that up? Everybody bring their cowboy hats.
He lives on his ranch in Montana. So I mean, it was actually in a barn, but it was really nicely done. And he was actually the guy that I had that video with. Remember when I did a video back in 2020 and my friend was interested in buying like a Kobe card or buying a card, and I did a whole analysis on it. You may not have remembered, but
I just don't remember what he looks like, but I remember the video.
That was him. So anyway, it was cool to go up there, enjoy a wedding, come back here, and now it's boiling hot, but only for a few more days. And yeah, that's about it. I did get off of Hinge, as in I did just randomly delete my Bumble and Hinge. And
it was Grindr though.
Kept the grinder. In fact, I put that to the home screen. Now it's on the home screen. Like the shortcut. Yeah, short. And then I even have a shortcut to it in case I accidentally miss it with my finger. Now I have shortcuts all around it, so I can't miss. No, just randomly.
So you got rid of Hinge after how long?
After the day after I broke up with my ex, up until now. Up until like a few days ago. So I found myself relying a bit too much on it. And so now I'm just going to take a week, 2 weeks, maybe longer off and see what happens. But just thought it was worth mentioning since that has become such a theme of the show.
No, absolutely. I feel like you're going to just hit download while we're on the live stream, just so it's back up and running after we get off.
Like people have FOMO about cards. Man, my FOMO around Hinge, like, but what if my future wife just joined? What if she's looking? What if this is...
That was one swipe and you missed it.
And what if this is like the 1 week window that she's single before she finds another guy that she's locked up with for 3 years?
That's how the world works. That's how it works, man. We have to get Stephanie's opinion.
Yeah. And that's the perfect segue to bring our female guest on. Stephanie, what's up? How are you? Oh, let me unmute you.
Brad's got you on live.
Oh, wait. Can't I unmute your guest?
There it is. All right.
That was me, because every now and then my little ones, you'll hear them screaming in the background. So I mute myself every now and then. So please remind me if I have myself on mute.
Full disclosure, before this live stream, my 7-year-old was like, I'm not going to sleep. And I'm like, I need you to go to sleep. And we left it as, I don't know if he's going to sleep. So it might be the same story for me too.
Well, so the good thing is that just based on that story right there, we know that your name Mama Breaks is based on you being a mother. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Kind of like the sports car dad. I have 2 little ones. They're 3 and 1.5.
Oh, wow.
That's actually quite the duo, sports car dad and Mama Breaks.
Yeah.
And then there's just Brad.
just me. Yeah. But anyway, so look, we met at, I think, Mint Collective the first time, I believe. And
Yes,
then
I
we
met
saw
both of
each.
you.
We met both of us, and I saw you at the Burbank show last week, and that was the second time. But I've seen you online. We've both seen you online for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years, maybe the whole time. So, but we haven't really spoken. So, introduce us to yourself, because I know you create content, you do breaks, but how would you define your role in the hobby? Who are you?
That's a great question.
I'm just mimicking my Hinge days. Look, we talk online. I've seen the pictures you post. Who are you?
Who are you? This is how you interview women on your Hinge dates?
Prove to me that you're worthy of my time.
Well, everyone, my name is Stephanie Garcia, and I actually thought about that question a lot before coming here, because you asked me about what my role is in the hobby. And honestly, I just kind of do a lot of what I love to do. So I love ripping open packs of cards. So I do breaks on Instagram. I also do Whatnot and the Card Shop Live app now. And I also buy, sell, trade at shows. So I set up a lot in the SoCal card show scene, Union Marketplace, Burbank show. And yeah, I create content. I create reels. So not long form content like YouTube here, but reels are my thing. I really enjoy doing TikToks and the trends, and every now and then just sharing kind of what I've learned so far being in the hobby very actively on social media for a year and a half. Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how did you get in, right? Was it someone else? Was it on your own? I mean, like, because if you're most guys, you're like, all right, well, why aren't more women in? Like, if this appeals to you, then shouldn't it appeal to a couple 100,000 other more women?
And did you get back in, or was it a brand new thing for you?
Well, I feel like I've heard this story a lot too. I collected Pokemon cards as a kid. So that was huge when I was like 9-10 years old. So I had my Pokemon card collection, but I didn't think anything of it. It's kind of just what we all did as kids. And going into kind of the 6th grade, 7th grade, I started playing softball, and I started really loving the game of baseball. My entire family are huge Dodger fans, and I feel like I really understand the sport well. And that's kind of where my love of Pokemon cards took me to baseball cards. But, growing up in South LA, baseball cards is not something that I knew people collected, especially not adults. So I had no idea that, you have to hold the rookie cards or that they can be valuable in any way. I kind of just put them in my binder or pasted them on my wall. So my favorite players were at the time Eric Gagne, Adrian Beltre, and I say a lot that Clayton Kershaw is someone who I grew up with, because at like the peak of my playing softball and loving to watch the Dodgers every single night, really, even when I couldn't watch the games on TV, I would listen on the radio, and we got the LA Times in every day, and I would clip out my favorite highlight pictures and again post them on my wall with my cards and everything. And yeah, once I heard that sports cards were a thing again and they were booming, I kind of did my research. I looked into it, and I saw that, wow, these cards didn't exist when I was, ripping packs. And I decided that I needed something to do with my kids that I would also enjoy, because I think that's very important to find like a hobby that you can enjoy doing with your kids. And I started collecting, and I got really into, joining breaks. Obviously, I think that's a really fun part of the hobby, is doing breaks and kind of joining a breaking community where you see the same people every week and you're opening the new releases of cards and learning about them. So my husband's like, you're obsessed with this. Why don't you try to do it on your own? I was a teacher at the time, so I had coming from working many years in a corporate training position where I worked a lot of hours. Once I had my first son, I transitioned into teaching, and I just felt like I had so much extra time. And I started doing this on the side, like doing breaks on Instagram. So that's how my Instagram started.
So is your husband into it as well now? Like, has he gotten, like, at first he was probably like, okay, whatever. But like, is he now like, all right, let's do this. We're hitting the show. You know, like, is he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to actually collecting, he loves basketball. So he does now have his basketball cards that he collects. He's like an old 90s collector. He has his key players like Eddie Jones and Kobe that he likes to collect. But as far as going to the shows and making it a business, he's just been like my right-hand man. He still lets me take the lead, but I could not have done any of this without him and his support. So
very cool. You know, the first part that I heard was Pokemon cards were the gateway drug, right? Mm-hmm. That was like the cigarette. That was like the cigarette that led you to the harder drugs. But it's interesting.
And it's funny that you say that. It's funny that you say that because it was like a drug when we were kids. They weren't allowed at school. That's how obsessed we were with them.
With Pokemon cards?
They would ban Pokemon cards at school because we were playing them during class, and people were making bad trades and getting in trouble with their parents and stuff like that.
Well, what's interesting is I transitioned from sports cards to Pokemon, and then Pokemon to nothing, and then back into sports cards a couple of years ago. But it was sports cards then to Pokemon. But I could see that I don't know what the female versus male, like girl boy ratio is into Pokemon, but I would imagine it's way higher than the ratio for sports cards, no matter what sport it is, unless it's like female UFC or female soccer, like women's soccer or something like that. But just the way that you mentioned that, do you feel like that is the way for more girls and women to get back into the hobby, is things that like a cartoon they might be watching already or something they're already involved in, and then just get them to understand the card side, and then hopefully it'll translate over into other areas?
Honestly, when it comes to that, I just think it's very about the parents. So I agree that maybe boys are sometimes more encouraged to play sports, so they understand more that aspect of, hey, I watch the games with my dad. But, if there's a dad encouraging their daughter to watch sports with them and taking them to games and putting them in soccer and teaching them to look up to also male, sports players, it would be the same thing. So I, again, grew up in South LA where for whatever reason, we're still very behind when it comes to organized sports for kids. It's not typically something that exists like in urban areas yet. So as a teacher there, I had a lot of kids who did not like sports. They didn't understand it. They weren't playing it themselves. Their parents don't really watch sports, or if they do, it's only soccer, and so yeah, I think they in turn are more into Pokemon. They're more into whatever they can watch on Netflix and TV that's appealing to them at their age. So I definitely think non-sports and Pokemon trading card games can get a lot more kids in general in, but I don't think that only girls. That's always the way I see my students is never boy or girl kind of thing. It's just whatever your parents or your community involves you in the most.
The thing that's weird to me, though, is like if you go to an NFL game, I don't go to a ton of Major League Baseball games. I've been to some, but like there are a lot of female fans at NFL games or even NBA. Like you go to NBA game, there's a lot of female fans, but like the percentage of women that are collecting cards compared to men is so vastly off. But so it's like I feel like there are female sports fans. They just haven't converted over to this. I don't know. Yeah. Is that fair or no?
Yeah, I'm curious to think how many women play fantasy sports.
That's a good point. I don't have any in my fantasy football league. Now, granted, we haven't been great about open invites either, though. It's been like the same guys for like 10 years or whatever.
So you're the problem, Dustin.
So I'm basically the reason why this doesn't happen. Sports Card Radio, thanks for that $1.99. Yeah, all right.
Appreciate it. Well, the other thing, too, I was going to say, I feel like women's jerseys, women's apparel for sports has blown up the last 10 years too, where it used to be women having to wear like the oversized men's jersey, and then now they have really good looking clothes for women, like fitted women's clothes for football, basketball, everything else. I wonder if it's more
going
just
down a dangerous path here, Brad, but keep going. We'll
the bras are insane. The lingerie set I got last Christmas. Oh my
I've
God,
seen some cheap heels I've been looking at too. Some like suede wedges, you know. I'm thinking about it.
Well, I mean, look, if it's there, is it just that like for women, a lot of it is the socialization, like love to socialize and the event itself versus collecting, which is more, it could be more isolated, a bit more like to yourself. You know what I mean? Because like women overall are more social creatures than men. Like that's just like a overall, that's the thing. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, but you think the reason why it's no, it'll get controversial in a second. Hold on. We gotta. There's another 40 minutes.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there.
No, but in terms of like, because I'm wondering, because like, all right, well, where's this big drop off? You have so many fans that are male and female of sports, of, you know, they go crazy for college football and then NFL and basketball, baseball, all this hockey. They love hockey. You know, a lot of women, a lot of really cool, awesome women love hockey, and yet hockey cards not even close. And I just wonder if the community is not big enough for it to be social among girls and women, because maybe they'd be looking more for the social interaction and that dynamic versus men who might be cool just buying online, having it, never mentioning it to anyone else. Is that like, am I crazy for thinking that, or at least addressing that?
No, I don't think I've ever thought of it in that way, and that's a great point. And I think that, well, yeah, now that you see, because I can tell even from when I started a year and a half ago, there are so many more women in the hobby now collecting cards. But because the boom during the pandemic created Instagram and TikTok and all these people creating content for cards now, that it is becoming more of a social thing. And we were talking about that before here, how card shows are more popular than ever. They're more fun to go to than ever. So I think that's going to have a lot. The socialization part of the hobby and cards now is going to have a lot to do with more women entering, I think. So that's a great point. I never thought of it that way. But another perspective that I had was that, you know, playing these sports competitively too. So it's not typical for like your typical high school to have real competitive women, girls basketball teams. We don't grow up playing football at all. So football is something that I only recently started understanding more, but I never played it in high school like my husband did. So I can't understand it like he did. So I think it's also the experience of playing the sport competitively makes a difference too.
Yeah, for sure.
What type of success do you have? I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So you're setting up at shows. Do you have more success in person negotiating, selling, dealing at shows, or is it better just selling online, or kind of doing just doing online breaks, or, is there a difference there that you see dealing with people face to face as opposed to online?
Being a woman, right? Just being a woman, knowing who you are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then, you have an online presence. People know who you are. Does that make a difference for you?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I'm very biased in all those aspects. Like, yeah, I couldn't tell you if it's because I have an online presence, if it's only because I'm a woman, or, all of this. But I would say that I enjoy doing both equally, and I do well equally. And sometimes for me, again, it's all about your personality. I love talking face to face to people, and like, I'm so bad at texting and replying to DMs, but if we're in person, that's where I'm better, I guess. So I enjoy, and I feel like I do better in person at shows for that reason.
Have you thought of, just as an experiment, taking one of these prop designers, one of these costume designers here in LA that do the work on all the movies, to put you in like a 350-pound fat old white man suit, just to see the difference?
We're 24 minutes in. I knew I'm like, where's Wade?
I mean, just to see, you have a hidden cam on your hat, and you just go to a show and you pretend, you're just disguised, like Johnny Knoxville in one of those skits for Jackass, like one of those things.
What's so
see
weird?
How you're treated.
You know, so weird that I thought of the first thing I thought of was when I don't know if you remember Tyra Banks did a skit like that where she was pretending to be homeless. I just thought.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I know. I just thought of that, and I don't know. That's a great idea for a YouTube show. Maybe I'll have to try that out.
Well, when you do it, we'll bring you back on.
Make sure that we have the camera roll.
Yeah. If you
this
want
is
to do a live
content
stream,
gold here.
Yeah. If you want to dress up and then live stream on Off Center as we do play-by-play of you at the show, dressed like
we'll commentate.
What I'm curious is like the reaction that kids would have. Can you imagine that to me as opposed to
it's like that fat old man has a really sweet voice. Okay. Well, we had to throw it out there because look, you know, you go to a card show, you were at the Burbank show, and you look around and you're like, okay, well, it's this demographic primarily, and then a couple women, you know, a couple minorities, but it's like we know we want to spread the hobby to everyone that could be involved and interested, and you know, the more women, the more you know, minorities, different ages, different backgrounds, whatever, genders, races, everything, the more people could find someone that they can relate to and be feeling included in. But if you don't see or hear of anyone that you like or can relate to, it's going to be a lot tougher. So I want to know, like, from the girls you've talked to, like maybe the small girls or teens, the ones that you've interacted with, what is their sense of collecting? What do they like to collect? Are they into women's cards? Are they collecting LeBron James or the Tom Brady's or the same stuff? Or are they more going towards a certain niche that a lot of us guys might not be aware of?
No, to be completely honest, the girls that I've met so far remind me a lot of me. They're either playing, you know, softball and love baseball and have their baseball team that they're diehard fans of. And like I said, again, like parents are super involved and supportive and all that. And I've met a girl recently, well, a father actually, who was telling me about her daughter who's an artist and is very interested in sketch cards. And now we're seeing that more in like Star Wars sets, and Topps Museum Baseball just came out that has sketch cards. So women that are, again, naturally social and creative, wanting to create card art, I think is a real interesting niche for more women to get into. And yeah, I just think we're sports fans like everyone else at the end of the day if we're collecting sports cards. So even if we do sometimes gravitate more towards women, is because, like exactly what you said, we find we relate to them more. So.
Sure.
Going to Trigger Fingers comment, is it a requirement for women in the hobby to be F1 fans and collect F1 cards?
Oh, no, it's not, because I do not know anything about F1 at all. Okay. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Trigger Fingers, so there's not me.
So we also asked, what's your favorite card in your collection? Well, actually, I ask a normal question. We get Brad off of the fat suit questions. We'll go to a normal one.
We'll go back and forth.
Yeah. Brad will come back to that later.
One for you, one for me.
Okay. I'll throw the softballs. What's your favorite card in your collection?
Definitely has to be my pickup at the Burbank show. It was 2013 Sandy Koufax and Clayton Kershaw dual game use patch auto. That's a mouthful to say, but yeah, it's a booklet out of tier 1, and that's probably just like, I love Kershaw, and I've been this year on a mission to add more Koufax, and it's just worked out. So
okay, now my turn. If you could kill one person in the hobby, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so my question is, all right,
who do you hate the
most? one person dead.
Spicy content.
We're going to splice this up, and this is going to be the 30-second snippet we put out.
This is the snippet. Welcome to Mama Breaks' Off Center. This is who she hates the most in the hobby.
We're going to promote. We'll promote this on all the platforms. We're actually paying to promote it.
Okay. So my question. All right, we're talking about sports cards and women getting into that, but still based on you getting into Pokemon cards first. I'm thinking, what is an IP? If you were telling Josh Luber or Mike Mahan or one of the top guys at Fanatics, I believe this one intellectual property, this one facet, this one industry, whatever. Was that Dustin? Dustin, was that you?
My kid.
No, that's my little one.
Go back to bed.
So which inner IP do you believe could open the door the most for girls or teenage women or grown women the most? Just if that was who they wanted to target and say, we need something to help draw in this audience, what type of card would it be if it's not sports cards and it's not something that exists right now? And you could pitch it to the Fanatic CEO.
Yeah,
What's so cool about this question is that I did talk to Jeff Gordon about this, and this is a question that he did ask me, and I feel like I just have a great perspective when it comes to kids because I was a middle school teacher for a while, and again, I don't think it's
middle
just
school.
Mhm.
Those are tough years, man. But
I don't think it's just the focus on girls, honestly. I think if you just focus on kids overall, you're just going to have so many more also women and girls in the hobby. And I think I told them it's obvious kids nowadays are really into anime. So that's why Disney is doing so many things with trying to convert older brands into anime series. So I'm a big believer in Marvel and Star Wars because you have Disney doing all these new shows and all this anime stuff. And to me, the Star Wars is something that I got into early this year, and I love everything that they're doing, that Topps is doing with them. So if they can do the same thing with Marvel, I will help too.
so maybe make it more affordable, like a lot more of the Marvel products that are affordable, and maybe you have the hits that are worth a lot, but packs and cards that 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds with allowance could afford to buy, versus it just being products that cost in the hundreds of dollars, type of stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can have those products need to exist for the adults and then the older kids because there's levels to all of this. But yeah, definitely just series focused product, and I think the whole retail versus hobby thing still works out really well if you protect it. So.
For sure.
So actually, this is a good question, but I'm going to put a little twist on it. Do you believe that there are negative barriers to entry? Meaning kind of like, this should be a Brad question.
Well, I would say my thing is, I feel like if you're able to overcome the awkwardness or just being perhaps intimidated by being a woman in a mostly male space, I feel like there's advantages because it's like, guys want to look at you and follow you. And you see this with other female content creators too. It's like, hey, guys are interested in looking because, it's not just another 40-year-old white guy, not just not a 50-year-old white guy. There's someone different, and it's feminine energy. It's not just, masculine energy talking about the same stuff. So if you're able to overcome it, wouldn't there be advantages? Like, wouldn't it be easier to grow if you know what you're talking about and you're collecting and you have whatever type of business? Or are there barriers of entry? Okay.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I believe that the major problem here is that we don't have enough women that are just out there to create that easier entry, that relatable, hey, I can do this too kind of thing. I think just girls need more women in the hobby to look up to and say, hey, I can do that too. So that's kind of like,
do you think that there are women gatekeepers? So you know how it's always like, men are gatekeeping here. Do you think that there might be some female gatekeepers? And if you want to drop names, feel free to do so. This is an open forum. It's an open forum.
I honestly cannot think of it. And I forgot I'm sorry if I forgot who said this specifically, but I think, most of the time that whole culture of women being against each other gets perpetuated a lot in pop culture. But I feel like it's the exact opposite in the hobby. Every time I've met a woman, we've been like high-fiving each other. Yeah, supporting each other all the way. And it's kind of the guys that are against each other here. And we're just watching.
Devil's advocate, though. Devil's advocate.
TV. We need some more controversy.
Go ahead. Hold on. Devil's advocate. Is that because the percentage of women is so low that they are more likely to bond together? But if it grew to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of women, then it would get more combative. You know what I mean? Like if there's 4 white guys in the hobby, it's like, oh man, let's cling together, and then the rest were female or something, and they're like, oh, let's cling together because we can relate. But then all of a sudden there's so many of us, we're like, we can I don't know, bash on each other because it's we're not glued together. It's not like we're the little gang in the prison that has to stay together for our survival. Now we have to,
think about too, if there, or what if there's Mama Breaks 2? I mean, think about what like Ryan Card Collector 2 did to Card Collector 1.
Yeah, we don't even know what's happening.
Now you got
we
Mama
don't even
Breaks
know
2.
about that guy. Yeah,
I know.
Ryan's probably like dead. His body's probably like in a river somewhere. Hey, I need a. This is for Card Collector 1. It's out of frame, but Card Collector 1. This is for you. It splashed on my heel. Now it's uncomfortable. Anyway.
Just got buried by Ryan.
All right, so okay, I know you're big into Star Wars and Marvel. What is something that you'd like to see exist, whether it's just for your PC or just a product, like whether it's because I'm look, my whole big thing is I think there should be a lot more musicians, artists, comedians, stuff like that, because I watch more of that stuff than actual sports. So besides my Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't really care, but I will keep up with Jake and Logan Paul to see their antics and the boxing match, and I will keep up with Kevin Hart, maybe his new special on Netflix or things like that. So to me, that's where I would like to see more of that product exist, because I can get excited about up and coming comedians or whatever. But what would you like to see exist, even if it's just for yourself?
Oh yeah, well, Star Wars I love, and Marvel I want it for the kids, because I think it's going to bring more kids in and get them, like you say, that'll be the gateway drug for them now because Disney's so popular. But if baseball was my first love, my second and sometimes greater love is music. So I'm really into looking for those old like Panini stickers of my favorite musicians and cards. So I would love to see like a tribute to Bob Dylan, a tribute to Whitney Houston set, and a tribute to Motown cards. Can you imagine that? I'd be all over that. So definitely music too.
If they started with the musicians that they can get rights to, but that would cater to the audience that's already here, like if they look at the demographic of, okay, you have 35 to 50-year-old guys in America, who did they listen to the most? I bet that would do really well. Like if Zero Cool had a like what's the band, like Metallica, I can imagine would have a pretty good one, maybe Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm just trying to think of like 80s, 90s. I don't know about you two, but that's Green Day maybe, but those types of bands from 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I mean, Metallica is a global brand too, so you could sell that all over the planet. And if there was like on-card autos of James Hetfield and stuff, I mean, yeah, I think it would probably do pretty well.
Nirvana, obviously, like that'd be a cool throwback. Or if it was like best of 90s grunge, 90s, like dude, if there was a 90s grunge set, it'd be hard not to want that, especially if they're autographed.
So they've all passed away though. That's the thing with like grunge.
Well, all right. I mean, okay, so Kurt Cobain, yes, but I mean, lead singer Eddie Vedder, I think, is Pearl Jam. Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters.
Yeah, we'll see. Mike Judge stuff. Give me some Mike Judge on card autos. Absolutely. Anyway, go ahead.
I guess I'm an old soul saying Motown and Whitney Houston and all that, but you just think about music that's popular right now. Like my mom, anybody that's big on social media. So the first person that comes to mind is Adele. Like my mom is willing to pay ridiculous amounts to go see Adele, and she can't even get a ticket because it's sold out within seconds. So I think someone like Adele would be huge. Beyonce.
You ever just put on like the Adele station at your house, and does your husband absolutely like freak out and leave?
Because I know my house. My mom loves Adele.
But I mean, do you also like Adele too?
I'm more into like oldies and classic rock, Bob Dylan, stuff like that. So
all right, good.
That's old people stuff.
That's better than Adele. My wife will go ahead and throw Adele on the Adele station. I'm like, I'm out. I'll see you in a couple hours.
Can you imagine? Would an Adele set get your wife into cards?
What would your wife get an Adele autograph? What would Kim like? Like if there was a set that had the best chance of luring your wife in? What would it be?
Crazy. So it's really weird. She's almost like backwards because she grew up in Italy. She was born and raised in Florence, Italy. So she has none of the 80s, 90s US nostalgia stuff. But she collected Panini stickers in Italy because that's obviously where the company was founded. So she was collecting soccer stickers in the 80s. I wish that she still had those. She does not. So she completely let me down there. But yeah, so she doesn't have any of that nostalgia stuff, which is actually kind of fun. Like we'll watch a movie and she's like, oh, what is this? And it's like, like she hasn't seen all the Star Wars movies. Like, she hasn't seen a lot of stuff. So it's kind of funny, like watching, or we'll watch like a Disney movie and she'll be like, oh my God, I've never watched this in English. Like I've only seen this like Sleeping Beauty in Italian. And then she'd be like, huh, that's what it translates to. Cool. So
I had the story all wrong.
Yeah. She's like, wait, this is not what I thought this was about. Yeah. So she's not a great example because she's not really a collector in that way.
Collaboration, Jeff Wilson and Adele.
Hello.
Okay, so tell us a bit about women in the hobby, what you have going on, and how you're contributing to getting this out to kids, to more females of all sorts. Because I know that was a talking point when we were at Burbank and saw each other, and it's important and something that you're passionate about. So tell us a bit about that, please.
Yeah, so Women in the Hobby is an organization that Ty Fauci from Bullpen and Sarah Layden from Layton Sports Cards started as an actual organization coming from the Facebook group that they created, Women in Cards. So that's been going on for a long time. Now it's Women in the Hobby. We did an Instagram, and our mission is just to create a space at shows where women feel comfortable going to. So you talked about that earlier too, how it's sometimes the barrier is getting over the fact that you may not feel as comfortable being the only woman at a show. That was never an issue for me because my husband always went with me. But I don't think, again, if my husband didn't go to shows with me, I don't think I would be going on my own. But now that there's a Women in the Hobby booth and I know women are going to be there and I can hang out and they're going to be welcoming, it's going to be a lot easier for women to hopefully go to shows on their own and not have to rely on a boyfriend or a husband to go with them, or even kids, So
is there a way that you can give out pepper spray or just in case if you had to run to the restroom and you got attacked or approached by someone you didn't want? I mean, that's just walking down the streets here in LA. Like I feel like I need pepper spray.
I love how you just twisted this. You took it on.
Well, there's always there's always an effort of comedic relief. Sometimes it doesn't land as comedic. It lands as highly offensive. But the effort in
your head.
Dustin, don't forget, he's in Atlantic City right now, so he has all this stuff going on behind him, so he can.
Unfortunately, West Hollywood is starting to look like Atlantic City, but. Anyway, no, that's so important because I mean, I would not want to be a woman in a card show where it's 90-something% men and you're just looked at one way or another. You're just because you stand out no matter what. So it's like whether it's approached, whether it's looked at in a weird way, it's just not comfortable. You want to be comfortable if you go to a card show. You should never feel like you're not going to be having a good time. So I mean, the idea that it's a booth for now and then hopefully a big enough section that hopefully it's a good mix of people all throughout. But what's the idea of it right now? Is every show here in Southern California going to have this type of setup, or what's the vision overall?
Oh yeah, the vision is to be at every card show and just have more opportunities for socializing online. So one cool thing that we started, which is our first initiative, is a all women's fantasy football league. So we put it out there and we were assuming that, we would get 10. We actually had to do 2 different leagues of 12 women in each league. So wow. I've been doing fantasy football for 4 years, hardest draft of my life. I know everybody studied it like crazy.
So that's one thing we were going to say. If you are great at fantasy football or you study it a lot and you have any sleepers or anything that's not just the whatever auto draft, something that you want to put in the chat, like, hey, I love fantasy. I study this. I really believe this person is a great value pickup or whatever. I don't do fantasy, so I'm trying to adopt the verbiage that y'all use, but a good value pick or whatever, let us know in the chat. I'm not saying Stephanie will use it, but just throw it up there because the engagement helps.
We just need someone to throw something in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm actually, besides the Women in the Hobby League, I'm doing an All Breakers League sponsored by Pristine Auctions, and our draft is tonight, and it's a 14-person league. So I need help with those, whatever scraps get left over towards the end.
I've got a question.
Super duper sleeper picks.
I'm going to shift gears again. So what do you think about you've kind of, so you moved into this, did you say it's full time for you? The Mama Break time?
As of 1 month, yes, I
okay. All right.
kind of just quit after the school year ended. So.
Nice. Okay. So what are, and you don't necessarily have to share like every goal, but do you have any specific goals for the business? Any, things that you want to accomplish as far as, I don't even social media stuff like YouTube or Instagram followers or any of that stuff, or just for your business? Do you have anything that what that you could share, I guess, on that front?
Okay. As far as like my short-term goals is definitely to get a YouTube show channel going, and just kind of sharing more of what I've learned, and kind of sharing my experience again to encourage more women to do the same and be just a relatable figure to women and kids. But my overall mission and what makes me happy doing this is helping bring families together to do this as a hobby. This is exactly why I started collecting on my own. So that's why I'm very passionate about doing the kids hobby hunts and kids trade days wherever I can, because overall I just want to make the hobby something fun for families to do together. So no more of like, hey, I collect on my own. I think it's something that can really bring families together. So.
And what's interesting about that is I wasn't very close to my dad. My dad would watch tennis and Formula One, and I never was interested in either. And I watched basketball, football, and I was into cards as a kid, but he wasn't at all. But I always thought, or I always like saw fathers and sons in this, thinking, oh my God, what an easy way to bridge a parent and a child. And it doesn't have to be father, son. It could be mother, son, daughter, father, whatever else. But what a great bridge, because if they're both interested in some sort of sport or even non-sport, just a great way to bond, to collect, to talk about money, to talk about investing, to give all these life lessons in a way that both can be very excited about. And I didn't have that as a kid, but man, the potential is there. And you see it at shows too. You see the father and son dynamic. You see hopefully more mother-son, mother-daughter dynamics as well.
Does that make you? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just imagine the whole family? Mom collecting Adele cards, dad collecting F1, kids collecting Pokemon, and they all doing a business together. Like I've seen multiple families starting up like that now, and just making it like a small business where, like you said, you learn practical skills about money, about life, dealing with people, being a good person, building relationships, negotiating. So
yeah, but you wish that your dad was just a little bit better, right, Brad? Like with mine, I love my dad, but man, he let me down there. We're going to be busy at therapy next week. I can tell you that. We got a full slate of therapy planned.
I'm still healing from a lot of those childhood wounds right now. A lot of hypnosis, that I'm doing right now. Anyway, PSA Canada, great to see you as well. Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, if they're all collecting these cards, who's working? that business must be crushing it. So very cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's great what you're doing. Dustin, what else you got? These are some great questions and great input as well from some of you guys regarding the picks as well. We got Christian Kirk here. Captain Kirk has big ears. I don't know if that affects his fantasy stock, but AJ Dillon, Christian Kirk, Cooper Kupp. So hopefully those help out. Who do you have tomorrow winning? We have Bills and Rams, correct?
Yeah, Bills, Rams opening night.
And are you a Rams fan, being from Southern California, Southern LA?
I am not. We did not have a team for a very long time. So my husband's actually grew up a Chiefs fan, so we're Chiefs fans.
Oh, nice.
That's unfortunate.
That's a good default. Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Like Joe Montana, and that's what he grew up watching. But like I did not watch football growing up. My dad liked soccer, and I just kind of joined his family bandwagon there.
Okay, and then so my question then for baseball, because you're the baseball fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your baseball team? It's the Dodgers, right?
It's the Dodgers, okay. 100%.
And are they going to win the World Series?
Definitely.
Is that just a homer? Is that just in your heart, or is that in your head as well?
Both.
They're actually, they're really
they have the best
winning
percentage in baseball right now.
Okay.
I think it's both this year. Usually it's for a long time it was just here, but now it's also here.
So
awesome.
Stephanie, obviously really optimistic, positive person. What's something you hate about the hobby in general?
Let's say
this is you guys are looking for the clip. I know.
No. Let me.
We need to pull multiple clips out of this thing.
Let me rephrase. Let me rephrase for Dustin, because I need to sneak under the radar a bit more. If you could change one thing about the hobby, aside from women and females, more of them getting in, but
and gatekeepers of females
and any of that. If you can improve or change one thing about the hobby today, because there's a lot. I mean, people, you have grading, you have monopolies, you have scams, you have whatever. But if you could say, man, I would love for this to change in the next 6 to 12 months, this would be amazing. Beside the mission that you're on, what would it be?
Yeah, I do have something, and I think about this a lot, and how I can enact change in this is changing the perception that when you are doing a deal, that there has to be a winner, that somebody has to get, the short end of the stick because you have to be the winner. Where I think negotiations should be more win-win, and we should focus on building relationships and thinking of the long term. And bottom line, just be a kind person. Be kind.
Brad, did you hear that?
Going in thinking.
It's not registering. No.
Going in thinking, hey, I'm gonna, I don't know if screw is a bad word that we can say in
we
here.
Can use it. It's a good word.
I'm gonna screw this person into getting this. He doesn't know what he has in this card, and I'm gonna buy it for $50 and turn around and sell it for $300 and laugh about it behind his back. I hate that whole thing. So, and I think that sometimes,
honestly, hobby kind of has a history of that. To be honest, I mean, if I go back to when I was a 10-year-old kid at the card shop, the 40-year-old dealer was not giving me any breaks. It wasn't like, we got to get more kids in. It was like, let me sell you this quarter card for $5. That's what I remember. So now it's like payback time. Like now I'm the 41-year-old man.
You got to screw over little kids just because that's karma.
No,
you can't, because they know how to look up comps, and there's so much education out there. So it's really dumb to think that way too.
Here's the thing too, is look, there's the short-term mentality, which is I screw someone today for a lot of money, but I'll never be able to do business with them again, which is not a good strategy if you want to be in this hobby long-term. But there's also, just like I think Sports Card Investor put out a video of when his son at the National was almost scammed by this guy. So, and I don't think he included the picture or anything of this guy, but we live in an era, and this is what, a lot of the entrepreneurs, Gary Vee and whatever, says, our reputation is very visible too. So if someone tries something, it'll easily be, don't do business with this person. Who is it? Here's their Instagram. Here's what they look like. It's not just, we're so disconnected and you'll never be able to trace this person. So having that long-term mentality of, I want to go to this show every month or every other week and have a reputation that, I pay fair, I buy fair, I treat people well, and people want to come to me and do business with me, because I'd rather make a little bit of profit every single week for months and years versus go for the home run today, but then never be able to walk into this show again because I'll have a horrible reputation. Like, to me, it's just very obvious. If you have any sort of sense of time, you would always think, okay, what's the right thing to do long term versus what's the greedy short term solution. So I hope the people that, especially unethically, like just straight up illegal or whatever, that gets caught very quickly. And if there's one victim or one person that gets screwed, it certainly isn't a second or a third, because it's very quick to get out into the public. But I'm glad you asked that, Dustin, because I did not expect that as an answer.
I want to answer Rick Lyle's comment right here. Dustin, there was a magazine called Beckett back then. Yeah, but it was a monthly publication. Okay. And it was, the arrows were from last month's data. So compare that to what we have today, where basically like on a 24-hour, whether you're using Market Movers or Card Edge or Card Ladder, whatever it is, yes, there's a delay. It's not a 30-day delay to get the data. And then the dealers didn't go by the Beckett price. They were just like, hey kid, it's this is what it is. And I would be like, but wait, a Bubby Brister 89 score is 20 cents here in the Beckett. They weren't like, All right.
Sorry, kid.
20
30 cents. the numbers back then.
It was still
not,
$2.
Not a cent less than 27 cents. And then we battled for 3 hours on that.
I've been working.
I'm not saying you can't get deals or you can't give people deals or try to get a better deal. It's just trying to think win-win in the long run is the best solution. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Okay, well, 6:55 here on the West Coast. I feel like we could talk to you so much more because we haven't even scratched the surface of, I guess, a lot of what you have going on for you personally, and I'm sure this is going to grow in the next couple of months as well. Where can we find you? Where would you like for us to connect with you now until you have a massive YouTube station that swallows both of our stations?
Instagram and TikTok is where I mainly am.
Okay,
and
Mama
YouTube
Breaks.
coming soon.
Okay, I would advise against YouTube just because it's a lot of work. It is a lot.
I mean, you guys need to do some clips in YouTube Shorts. I don't know if this is for after the thing, but YouTube Shorts is doing well.
I'm just getting to the point where I'm doing IG Reels, and it's hilarious because like I have a 19.
I can help.
My daughter is like, she'll watch my reel and be like, "Dad, are you serious?" I'm like, "This is actually hilarious. I put music to it. It's funny, But yeah, so
That's actually something I tell a lot of guys is like have your wives and your daughters help you out with that aspect of the hobby and bond with them that way. They don't have to be into cards. They can. I love shipping. Like, it's weird how much I love shipping cards. I'm obsessed with the bubble mailer quality and how I'm gonna, So
that's the
we can
bane
help
of my
anything.
existence.
I wish my kids were more into shipping.
So tell us about child. So
just making their beds for that matter.
So the labor laws are quite strict here in California. How do you get around that to make your 7 and 8-year-olds do all of this grunt work without a mandatory hour lunch? How do you do that? I was half serious, but anyway.
This is Dustin, right? Yeah, my kids are babies.
Oh, I was supposed to. Yeah. Well,
they eat the cards.
I'm in North Carolina. It's fair game here. We don't have those labor laws.
One question I was going to ask though is if you are a guy collecting and you want to continue collecting without, or like, what's the best way to tell your wife or girlfriend or explain or make sure the relationship is still in a very healthy spot as you go further down this rabbit hole of collecting? If you were a guy, like if you say, look, tell your girlfriend this, approach her this way, make sure that this is something that you're thinking about if you are spending a lot of time and money doing this. Like, what are some things that you would want to hear or questions you'd want to be asked or whatever if you were the wife or girlfriend of someone that is heavily involved in this hobby and maybe you don't have the same time together as you once did, or you might just be sensing that too much time is being and money is being devoted to this? Just the women's perspective there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is just in general, me speaking from personal experience. My husband is obsessed with going to the gym. He's really into fitness. That's his passion. And I think a lot of the time, I know I did for a long time, but you know what? What the disconnect there is, well, where it was for a long time for me and my husband is the lack of being able to communicate. Like my husband, I needed for him to be honest with himself and as to why he loves to do it and express that to me, because that's something I did not understand for a long time. So once he was able to like articulate like, hey, Stephanie, I love going to the gym because I've been very active my entire life. I used to play sports and that's something that I need. And it's something that relieves stress for me and all that kind of stuff. Then I love him. So of course I'm very understanding once we figure that part out. So I think talking is very important and being honest with why you're doing it. And if it's something that relieves stress for you, that you need to do it on your own. Because that's another thing. Doesn't mean, I don't think your wives necessarily need to collect with you. Maybe that's something that you want to do on your own. That's also a very healthy thing. So just expressing that. I mean, this is something that I need to do sometimes on my own. And now that I have this, believe me. Encourage maybe your wives to have, I know it sounds horrible, but like, go find a hobby if you don't have one. And then sometimes you do your hobby and sometimes I do my hobby and we're happy.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, to me, it's always what's in it for the other person. I can be more present with you when I get this escape, or I feel mentally my best when I have a good workout. That whatever it is, now I can be 100% present and a better version of myself with you versus feeling anxious and pent up or not feeling like I'm getting the escapism or whatever. Dustin, you could always just tell Kim, I love going to the steam room half naked and meeting other men there. And I just need that for a few hours a day, every day. So
makes me a better husband, a better father.
We share a lot. We really share a lot in the steam room. And everything that, once the lights turn off, what I'm showing you is what I'm learning. So told you to be inappropriate at some point.
I come home to her. That's it. That's all that matters, right?
All right. Well, we got our laugh. Guys, thanks so much for joining us in the chat. And please follow Stephanie, Mama Breaks, on TikTok and on Instagram. And she will be on YouTube soon enough. And of course, feel free to reach out if that's something you're serious about and would like some pointers on. And
if you want to check out some of Brad's videos, just go back about 8 months and you'll be in good shape.
But
that's the good stuff, right? Not the.
That's the only stuff, really.
Those are the last ones.
However, but just like me and my dating life, it's quality over quantity. Okay. There we go. We'll end it there.
That. We believe you. Dude, on your IG, throw up like pictures of other people, not just drinks and food. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway.
I mean, that's the mystery. I'm being mysterious. Anyway, guys, have a great night. Sign up for our newsletter, thecomebackcardinvestor.com or sportscarddad.com, since Dustin doesn't promote it. Anyway, have a great night and follow Stephanie on Instagram and TikTok. See y'all next week.
Bye, everyone.